Hello curious and welcome back to our channel. When it comes to the adult industry, there is no doubt that there is money to be made here, especially when you're the person in charge of building your own empire, just as it has been with the publisher Larry Flynt. The founder of the ever-popular adult magazine Hustler has passed away at the age of 78 following heart failure. But how did this man build his empire? What legal troubles did this man have to face in his career? What led to him getting a movie about his case which starred Woody Harrelson? What did his private life look like and why did he disown his own daughter? Stay with us until the very end to find out more about the life of Larry Flynt and how the man built his empire. While Flynt had an impressive empire with a net worth well into the millions, let's start at the beginning to see how this man worked to gain such a sum. Larry Claxton Flynt Jr. was born on November 1st, 1942 in Lakeville, Magoffin County, Kentucky. Due to the fact that his father had served in the army during World War II, Larry was raised solely by his mother and maternal grandmother for the first 3 years of his life. His parents divorced in 1952, a year after the passing of his sister Judy, after she lost her battle with leukemia at the age of 4. At first, Flynt lived with his mother in Indiana, but later returned to Magoffin County to live with his father, as he did not like his mother's new boyfriend. Prior to starting his first enterprise, Larry worked in several jobs. He ran away from home at the age of 15, and using a counterfeit certificate, he had joined the army. Once he was honorably discharged, he returned to his mother in Indiana and started working in a manufacturing company. Though he didn't find much luck there, as he was laid off 3 months later due to a union-led slowdown. Once again, the then young Larry packed his stuff and moved in with his father in Kentucky once again. Then, in July 1960, he enlisted into the Navy, where he became a radar operator until his honorable discharge in July 1964. The following year, in 1965, is where the building of his empire, though back then it didn't actually have anything to do with the adult industry, start. At the beginning of 65, Flynt took money from his savings and bought his mother's bar in Ohio. After he had refurbished it, the bar would be making as much as $1,000 a week. Using those profits, he opened 2 more bars. In his biography, it states that back in those days, he would work as many as 20 hours a day and turned to illicit substances to help him stay awake. Seeing how successful the bars were, he decided to open a new one, which was a much higher class one. It was also the first in the area that had nude hostess dancers, which he named the Hustler Club, and thus the name was born. By 68, with the help of his brother and then girlfriend Althea, he had opened hustler clubs in 4 more cities, and soon enough, each club would bring him between $260,000 and $520,000 a year. Soon, Larry began moving more towards the end goal, which was the Hustler magazine as it is now. In 72, he created a newsletter about his clubs that became popular with the customers. But due to the oil crisis in 73, the country went into a recession, which meant that revenues for the clubs declined. Instead of filing for bankruptcy, Flynt decided to turn his Hustler newsletter into an explicit magazine that would have national distribution. The first issue was published in July 1974, but the magazine had struggled for the first year, which was mostly due to the fact that many distributors and wholesalers had refused to handle it due to its contents, especially once the images had started to become more and more graphic. The saving grace for the magazine soon came when a paparazzo had approached Flynt with some photographs that he had managed to capture in 1971. Those were of the former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, while she was sunbathing nude on vacation. Seeing the opportunity presented to him, he purchased the pictures for $18,000 and published them in the August 1975 issue. And it turned out to be a hit, as it attracted widespread attention, and within the first few days, 1 million copies were sold. Now that the magazine was making a profit, it meant that Flynt could expand his business, and he started by creating his own private company, Larry Flynt Publications, in 1976. In 98, they had also begun to produce adult videos through the Hustler Video Film Studio. Now curious, make sure you stay with us as we have many more interesting facts coming your way. While his career was becoming more and more successful and bringing him profit, it also brought troubles. One such instance nearly cost Flynt his life. On March 6, 1978, during a legal battle in court, we'll talk more about those in a moment, Larry and his lawyer were walking back to court when shots were fired at them. As a result, Flynt was left partially paralyzed and with permanent spinal cord damage. This resulted in him being bound to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. His injuries had also caused him constant pain, which led to him being addicted to his medication until the surgeries had solved the problem with the affected nerves. He had also suffered a stroke that had been caused by one of several overdoses. He recovered from them but had difficulties with pronunciation later. The man who caused it to him was Joseph Paul Franklin, who was a white supremacist and who was responsible for taking the lives of many people between the late 70s and early 80s. He had confessed to it many years later and claimed that he did it as he was outraged by an interracial photo shoot in a Hustler magazine. Flynt also had many legal troubles during his career, though those weren't as deadly as his encounter with Franklin could have been. The one trial in particular did lead to a movie being made about him. But before we talk about the film, let's look at the real-life court case. Many of the troubles of the self-titled First Amendment champion were with regards to the adult business, which his magazine focused on, and free speech. In 1973, the government made a landmark decision, the case which was titled Miller vs. California California, which modified the definition of obscenity from that of utterly without socially redeeming value to that which lacks serious literary artistic, political, or scientific value. At first, Flynt was persecuted on obscenity and organized crime charges in Cincinnati in '76 by the head of a local committee that was against the adult industry. Larry had lost the case and was given a sentence of 7 to 25 years in prison. However, he had only served 6 days of that, as his sentence was overturned on appeal after allegations were made of misconduct on the part of the persecutor, as well as the allegations that the judge and jury were biased. This has also resulted in the case being reviewed by the US Supreme Court in 1981. And it is about this trial, which was called Larry Flynt vs. Ohio, that the 1996 movie, The People Vs. Larry Flynt, was released. The movie was directed by Milo Forman and it starred Woody Harrelson as Larry Flynt. Edward Norton and Courtney Love also starred in the movie. And if you want to know more about Love, then be sure to check out the previous video. Flynt himself made an appearance in the movie where he played the judge that had originally passed his sentence. But this was just one of many cases with regards to free speech that featured Flynt, and to cover them all we would probably have to do a separate video. As he expanded his business from a magazine to websites, casinos, and an adult TV network, he had established his adult industry empire. According to Celebrity Net Worth, all this had accumulated to a total worth of $500 million. He ran his empire from a high-rise building in Beverly Hills, which he bought in 1994 for $19 million, according to The Hollywood Reporter. However, he did end up selling it for a whopping total of $89 million in 2013. And since he was able to splash out, given the sum of his bank account, he decided to give his wheelchair an upgrade, and according to the Los Angeles Times, his gold-plated wheelchair had cost him $85,000. When it came to the industry that he worked in, Larry definitely had competition. Even he himself had described Hustler magazine as competition to Playboy and Penthouse, which presented themselves as highbrow art as opposed to being simple nude magazines. Of course, this has resulted in many comparing Flynt to Playboy magazine founder Hugh Hefner. Both of the men were the founders of highly popular adult magazines, though Hefner had fewer troubles with the law that could have been chalked up to, as Flynt said, the magazine presenting itself as a highbrow art. If you want to know more about Hefner and one of his famous parties, be sure to watch our previous video. As technology advanced, he also had to deal with much bigger competition. In 2014 interview, Larry had stated that his print portfolio made up only 10% of his company's revenue, and he even predicted the demise of Hustler due to the competition from the internet. But while his career was successful and there were legal troubles with it as well, what was his private life like? Flynt was married 5 times, though not much is known about his first 3 wives, and the reports on their names and marriage dates differ. However, his 4th wife, Althea, with whom he tied a knot in '76, and the two had remained together until her passing in 1998. While he would later go on to remarry, in an interview Larry had stated that to him Althea was the true love of his life. The two had met as she applied to be a dancer at one of his clubs, and she even became the magazine's first life-size centerfold, and as the business grew, she reportedly helped with development, editing, publication, and management. Where reports with regards to his children are concerned, some differ, but it is said that he had 5 children. However, his daughter Lisa had lost her life in a car crash in October 2014. After the passing of Althea, that very same year, Flynt married Elizabeth Berrios, with whom he remained until the end of his life. Not much is known about her either, besides the fact that she allegedly worked as a nurse. Larry's problems didn't end with the law, as he also had troubles with his oldest daughter Tonya. This started after she became a Christian activist who was against the industry in which her father worked. In 1998, she released a book called Hustled, in which she accused her father of intimately abusing her as a child and claiming that he often called her names. He denied those charges, saying that he had passed a polygraph test and that he was in possession of a tape recording in which she had admitted to making it all up for money. All those problems had resulted in Flynt disowning her. So curious, what do you think about the life of Larry Flynt? Did you know who this man was? Were you aware of all his legal troubles? What do you think about his fight with regards to the industry and free speech? Have you watched the movie The People vs. Larry Flynt? Let us know in the comments below, and we will see you in the next video.